examples. Those are, hopefully you guys can see, if you can, not very important. That's one list. I use this example. That was a leak from the Turkish government, and you can see list of username and passwords. You can find a ton of those online. Those are from a long time ago. As I say, the reason why that matters is if you assume that people are not going to change their passwords and they're going to use the same account for multiple sites, now you have the ability to take that list and start testing it. So first step, as I say, that's for education purposes only. Don't try that at home. You can find a lot of those examples online. Sometimes what's going to happen is you're going to have some of the passwords, that's usually best practice, that they're going to be hashed. So you can go to one of those websites, that's CrackStation. You can put your hash password, that's pretty much what you're going to find online. You can detect the type, in this case it's like an MD2, and that's the result. This is my password. I created that one, so, but I'm sure you can find examples, very similar examples online. So now you have a list, even if it comes with a hash password, you know how to decrypt the password. So you have the ability to have pretty much like the base to start perpetrating an attack. The next step, and I'm going to use a tool that is called OpenBullet. It's a publicly available tool. So OpenBullet, something that you can find on GitHub, publicly accessible. If you guys are not familiar, you just come here, you download the zip file. There's a bunch of instructions below that tell you like what to do with it. So I downloaded the tool. The tool runs actually .NET. Don't ask me why. You can actually run .NET on Mac, so I went through that experiment. So you pretty much download the .NET.5, and now you have pretty much your environment, and you can run the tool. So come here. Sorry, it's a little bit small. Pretty much what I did is I unzipped OpenBullet, put that in my local folder. So kind of my root folder, OpenBullet. That's the only thing that you have to do. You do .NET/OpenBullet DLL, and that's going to run. There's a disclaimer. Obviously, it's open source. They say like, oh, it's illegal. Don't do it without having the testing permissions. But at this point, we have this up and running here. Oh, sorry, someone was trying to take a picture. Go for it.
It's done. Go ahead.
So now that we have both of those, you download it, you have .NET. If you're running a Mac, and I experienced that on my way here, it was working perfectly when I left California, and then something was not working anymore. So if you upgrade to macOS Monterey, the AirPlay runs on the port 5000. So you cannot run OpenBullet because it runs on the same port, so you have to disable AirPlay. So maybe going a little bit too much into the details here, but I'm going to save you some troubleshooting if you're trying to do the same thing that I did. And that's what you have here. You have OpenBullet running pretty much on your local machine, so on the port 5000, and it looks like a legit tool. So as I'll say, going back to the movie's reference where you have to run a bunch of things on kind of like command line, compile like all your software, like now you have something that be pretty much up and running in 10 minutes. So how we configure OpenBullet. First thing, you're going to come to the configuration. I already created one ahead of time, which is here. And I'm going to show you like a very basic website that I created for the purpose of the demo. It's called veryimportantsite.com. So just to show that it's legit, I'm just going to put a fake password, and that's going to tell me that I have invalid credentials. The reason that's important is because when you want to automate, you want to be able to handle like both scenarios. Like if I get this message that it's invalid, I can add that to my test case so I can automate and know what accounts are going to be legit or not. If I go back and actually put the real password, and I'm going to ask you guys to look the other way because it's a very complex one, that's going to get us to welcome, which is I'm a legit account at this point. So now that we know that and we know how the website is going to handle authentication, I'm pretty much going to come here and start building a configuration. If you're lazy and you want to know a particular site that you want to go after, Next, click on my sleeve, you can come here to Telegram. And in Telegram, there is an open bullets configuration channel. And you can scroll through those and you can find any kind of popular websites. There's like Twitch, Etsy, Battle.net. So you can scroll through that. As I say, if you guys are working for a company, you might want to look in there if there is, if your website shows up. But yeah, there is configurations every day. They're being updated, maintaining. So if you're really lazy, obviously there was not my very important website in there, but you can find a configuration and you can load that directly to OpenBullet at this point. So going back to the configuration, pretty much what we're doing here is login form. I look where the configuration, where my initial form is posting the information. I just added a few parameters in there. The next step is you can customize your headers. That's what I mentioned before. That's where you make it sound that you're a real user. So you don't want to use the default. You want to look pretty much for something that's going to tell that you're kind of like I'm using a Mac machine with a valid custom header. At this point, you want to test your configuration. Actually, before that, and that's just a add-on if you want to go automation. That's where I test the use cases. So first one, if it contains welcome, we're going to say that it worked. If it does not contain welcome in the result of the page, we're going to say that that was not a valid login page. So it's very basic, as I say, not very advanced from this perspective, but that's one of the things that we're going to start doing. So we're going to put again a login and a password. So close your eyes. This is very tricky. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to choose a credentials, meaning that I have a username and a password, and then I'm going to run start. And what that's going to be doing is pretty much testing the whole application. So you have a nice login flow that is going to tell you exactly what happened. Sorry, going from the beginning. So pretty much what I put in here is breaking down sliced. So I have a username and password. Those are variables that I put in this box here. And then it tells you like the header, the response, and when you go to the bottom, it actually tells you that this one is a success because that was my real password. So now you have the ability just to use a tool to test that. The next step is if you really want to be effective, you want to create a job that is going to run all that for you, so you don't have to run that manually. And then you're going to come into the jobs. I'm going to delete this one so I can do it from scratch. You're going to do a multi-run. You're going to select the word list. So that's a fake list that I created. As I say, you can find one online. You just upload the file in there. You select this one. What else I missed? Yeah, the configuration. I'm going to use the configuration that I mentioned, the login test. I'm just going to skip to 0. And this job is ready to go. So now pretty much what I did is I have a list of credentials. There's only like 15 on those. I have a configuration that I tested that is going to tell me if it's a valid or not result. And now I just have to run it. And that's the crazy part, is it's going to go very fast. And obviously it's only 15, but that's it. Like we just tested like 15 username and passwords in a couple of seconds. Without not doing anything. In this case, like they all failed because I use fake ones, but that's really about what it takes. So I just walk you through the whole process in 5 minutes. If it's your first time, it might take you like half an hour to get this up and running. If you really want to advance and make it fancy, it might take you like a couple of hours, but that's how easy it is to perform an ATO attack at scale. And it doesn't require any compute. Obviously, you don't want to do that from your local machine at home because you're going to get caught. You might want to hide behind a proxy and add a little bit more complexity here. But that's how basic it is just to perform an attack. So going back to what I mentioned before, if you think about it, like doesn't require a lot of technical skills, maybe a little bit of reading. If you have a lot of free time in your hands, that's pretty much something that you can perform easily by yourself. So going back to this one. well. So one of the things that I mentioned is like things keep evolving all the time. So you can see like that's something that we identify on our own network, but you can see that people are going to start testing kind of like multiple type of attacks. Usually they go with exactly what I did here, which is a single fingerprint, meaning that you're not going to try to rotate